Welcome to the starter deck quarterfinals. We are made it all the way from the round of 512 all the way to the quarterfinals, and we have not yet cashed. This is the bubble round. You need to win to get in the money, and we're starting off the correct way by going first. Pretty decent hand here. We have the turn 1 Wild Hog. Now we keep the Dockside Prowler, which is somewhat questionable, and we've got the Bedeviled Shadow. So we've got a turn 2 option with the Bedeviled Shadow that is relatively solid. And our opponent also has the Wild Hog as well. We're going to see where our Wild Hog goes. It goes face. If it hit the other Wild Hog, probably use our God Power there. It makes sense. If their Wild Hog hits our Wild Hog, then we'll use our God Power and play Dockside. Theirs goes face. So our 3-3 could in theory take out their minion, but they play a Barricade instead. So we've got multiple options this turn, and I elect to go ahead, and that doesn't seem right. Yeah, just go ahead and just attack into the Barricade twice. That does indeed make sense. Play the Bedeviled Shadow. Even if he attacks into the Wild Hog, we can GP, play Dockside, and get value. And here he does indeed attack into the Hog, Wild Hog to Wild Hog. They've got one minion with 1 health. Now would be a smart time for them to do something where I would want to use my God Power twice next turn, because I already want to use my God Power once. They instead use the Panacean Messenger, which will go ahead and buff up their minion, and they'll go ahead and ping my minion as well. We top deck a Panacean Messenger ourselves here. So realistically, we have to trade off that 3-1. It's a sitting duck. I could play the Messenger and then trade the 3-3 into the 2-3, but that doesn't really accomplish much. So let's just go ahead and remove that. But luckily, that means we can attack into there, use the Messenger to heal ours back up to 2 health. So we're leaving him with no sitting ducks for their God Power, and we have 3 minions on board, keeping the initiative, and we've got the Secrets Broker in hand, which can be of value. So we've done a good job of keeping the early initiative. We'll probably get the first pick in the Sanctum, and that Sanctum does indeed look very juicy. We draw Spike T, we've got Secrets Broker. Secrets Broker lets us draw a card. We can just push face, get the card advantage, and we're already getting the favor advantage as well here. So there's really no reason to make trades. We really should just push face and let him decide what he wants to attack into. Regardless of what he attacks into, we've got a good second attack. Since we're playing a welcome set decks, we don't have to commit to the Sanctum. We don't have to worry about tricks like Blessed, and we know there's only a limited amount of favor they can gain this turn. Realistically, they can gain 6 once with attacking with the minion and another with a removal spell. They can go up to 11 favor, which is not going to be able to purchase anything from the Sanctum. They do indeed have the Dagger, which does let them go ahead and kill my minion, but we have the opportunity to make the first pick in the Sanctum, which will be the Rune of Fire. The Rune of Fire will be able to take out their minion, which is very nice, but they're going to actually pip out Orpheo's Distraction to hit our minion, which is an interesting line, indeed. So now we've got multiple lines here. That minion's a sitting duck, so I'm going to go ahead and trade it. The issue here is, you know, what do we do with the Rune of Strength or the Rune of Fire? Both are good options in the Sanctum. And the other option is just to buy the Ambitious Adventurer because it fits curve. So we elect to buy the Rune of Strength, and we're just going to float this turn. Honestly, I probably should have played the Rune of Strength on the Wild Hog. It just felt kind of awkward. We knew that they could have another Dagger. They could have the Spike T, both of which could get value. We've got Removal, we've got Board, we've got Rotting Mountain hand, we've got Juggernaut. So we have a lot of things that we can do in the future turns, and we're ahead. If our 3-2 lives, we can play the Rune of Strength, go face, hide it, and that is probably a strategy towards lethal. Now notice there is a Valka's Discovery in the Sanctum. That could indeed mess up our strategy. We picked up the Rune of Strength last turn. It got replaced by Valka's Discovery. So we have to be somewhat careful going for the hidden strategy for lethal. They go ahead. They play the Poison Peddler, which is kind of an awkward minion. If I had already played Rune of Strength, you know, what do we do here? But this is relatively simple. We can make trade, go face. We can make trade, play barricade, ruin a strength, hide our minion. But we're just going to keep things simple, play the rotting mount. We're threatening to buy the ruin of fire next turn and threatening lethal. So hypothetically, if they do nothing to the wild hog, we can indeed just go face and effectively buy it. But I fully expect them to have a spike T or some sort of removal for our 6/5 minion on the board currently. They have the poison dagger, which will be able to remove our minion, and that gives them the 3 favor necessary to go ahead and purchase the Rune of Fire in the Sanctum, which they will go ahead and use to remove the Wild Hog. Now, we are situated pretty good here because we can go for the Rune of Strength and we can just attack face and hide the minion. We're asking the question to our opponent. They need an answer to the situation. And we're just going to toss out a barricade because we can. I mean, there's no other reason to. But we are threatening lethal with the Imp. They need to play 2 front lines this turn to survive. And they need neither front line to die to spiked T. That is the necessary line. They've got front line number 1, but they do not have front line number 2. So we will be able to use our God Power, and even if they had 2 front lines, the Poison Dagger top deck would have been lethal. And we go ahead and take game number 1. So now we enter game number 2, and once again we make the correct decision of going first. But we make the incorrect decision of having an absolutely horrible opening hand, and this mulligan does get better with the Wild Hog. We're looking to improve it even more. The Bedeviled Shadow and the Hunt Warden, and suddenly this is somewhat acceptable. We've got a 1, we've got a 2, we've got a 3, we've got a 4. We're not very flexible on our curve, but it is what it is at the moment. They get the Wild Hog open. We hit there, and here I probably should just use my God Power, but I like to play the Panacean Messenger, and that was probably a mistake. Their Wild Hog can actually trade into our Wild Hog, and we didn't really gain much by playing the 2/3, but it is what it is, and they go ahead and make the trade. And there's a lot of 3 drops that really expose the 2/3, and they play one of them. And we're not going to get too much value there. We go ahead and play the Hunt Warden on the battlefield. The Barricade wasn't a terrible top deck. We know they're probably going to attack in the Panacean Messenger. And then we are left with a situation where we hope to play their God Power. But if they've got their own Panacean Messenger, we are in a bit of an awkward situation here. So waiting to see what they do here indeed. We can go ahead, and if they do not heal up, we can play the God Power and just go face, play Barricade. That is a line. We can also play Bedeviled Shadow. That is a line, but we're going to keep our pip, keep our options open, because we already see that we've got the Underbridged Assailant, we've got the Bedeviled Shadow, we've got the Joe Beast. So we're going to want to use our mana very efficiently and maximize our value as much as possible. They get value out of their Panacean Messenger. They got 1 basically free hit into the Barricade, and they're going to go ahead and really pressure us. So the early initiative has gone to our opponent here, and the stack the deck isn't the greatest draw. We can either play the Joe Beast and the Bedeviled Shadow, but that doesn't really accomplish much. We can play the Underbridged Assailant, which also doesn't really accomplish much. So we play the Underbridged Assailant. We're keeping our pip just in case at the moment. But we've already fallen a little bit behind in this game. Now, Darkslash here, they can simply just GP and peel my Hunt Warden and then go face. That line is very simple and not very complex, and that's exactly what they go ahead and lead off doing. They play Barb Portculios, and now my Underbridged Assailant doesn't have anything convenient to do. All we can really do is attack and use our God Power here. We can actually lead with the God Power and then hit the Underbridged Assailant. That's another option since we have the Bedeviled Shadow, and that is going to be my line here. So we're going to go ahead and secure that kill, and we can either play the Jail Beast or the Bedeviled Shadow. The Bedeviled Shadow is the better line because we're going to be looking to attack into that with the Barb Portculios next turn. I have the option to buy from the Sanctum. The best card on the Sanctum currently is the Battle Oryx. So I go ahead and get that, and of course, what happens is a better card comes right behind it in the Sanctum. You always hate to see that. The Rune of Fire is, of course, better than the Battle Oryx. If the Rune of Fire was in the Sanctum, I do not purchase the Battle Oryx. That's the facts of the situation, but sometimes things do not work out the way that you would like them to. So our opponent here, they are going to the rope. They go ahead and attack with the Hunt Warden to finish off my minion. That Hunt Warden is now down to 1 health, so our God Power can pick that off. Now, when you're playing these type of decks, you want to obviously limit the opponent's God Power, but here they draw into a lot of aggro stuff. They're able to dump their hand very effectively, and we do not have a lot of good things we can do this turn. We're just flat out behind here. We can play the Battle Oryx, we can play the Bedeviled Shadow, but then what are we really even accomplishing here? We've got our 3/1 Bedeviled Shadows is sitting duck to their God Power. They can just trade the Hunt Warden into the 3/3 and go face with the other minions. Meanwhile, they're just milking favor. They can gain 12 favor this turn with relative ease, and guess what? They gain even more with the Poison Dagger. They can use that. They can use the GP. They can gain 18 favor this turn. So all that, they get Rune of Fire for free. And the thing is when you get that wide board and you start farming the favor and the Sanctum becomes your second hand, you're just going to be able to outvalue your opponent, especially when you've got good cards like Rune of Fire and Rune of Strength popping up in the Sanctum. Here, we realize we're kind of desperate. I know that Reckless Flame Breather is in the deck, so that is one thing for me to consider. So considering the Poison Peddler, I was considering playing Stack the Deck, even though it's the worst card on the deck. But we're just trying to fight hard for the board here, but we do know that we are behind, and we are very aware of what is likely to be coming very shortly. They can go ahead and trade off the 3/1 for the 3/2. They can use the GP. They can do a lot of different things here. And they go ahead, peel the minion. That leaves us with a 1/1. They can kill the imp. They can kill. They've got a lot of options. They can kill like basically any of our stuff here, and all of it is pretty reasonable from their range. So here they're taking a think. They've got 3 targets for their God Power, so they go ahead and use it on the biggest one. That makes some sense. And they're just going to go ahead and go face to farm favor. They're going to leave the Volatile Imp on the board and just go ahead and expand their board very, very wide. And this is not very good for us. Our imp can run into the 2/2. We top deck Barricade. Barricade's pretty useless. Now we're in a kind of a desperate situation, so we play Stack the Deck. It's the worst card on the starter deck. There's really not another one that's even close. We were hoping to draw Reckless Flame Breather and then have them go wide and then hit them with the Reckless Flame Breather. As it is, we've got Juggernaut, which is good into running into single target tall things, but this really wide board that we see from Darkslash and the pressure that they're going to apply here is very uncomfortable for us. So they get a couple of shots in, they buy the Rune of Strength, so they're just pushing additional damage here, and ultimately there's really not much we can do. We're just so far behind. We draw Poison Dagger. We've got a Juggernaut here. The Juggernaut can run into the Dockside Prowler. But at the end of the day, what are we even accomplishing here? And the answer to that question is absolutely nothing. So Darkslash here, they have a turn. They've got a lot of cards in hand, a lot of options. They play the Rune of Fire, which we knew about from earlier. They can go ahead and remove the Barricade if they want, but they're just going to flat out ignore the Barricade, say, hey, I don't need 2 mana. I can ignore your Barricade. I can go around the wall and push 5 points of damage. They're going to buy a wind-up roller to give me another chance to draw into Reckless Flame Breather. We do not top deck Reckless Flame Breather at all. We do not top deck anything useful. Our opponent has lethal next turn, regardless of what we do. So there really isn't too much that we can do in this situation. So we go ahead, bounce their minion. At the end of the day, oh yeah, we're actually able to survive. It's a miracle. But I mean, there's surviving in Gods Unchained, and then there is whatever this is. This is a very concedable position. I buy the Ranger first bow, which honestly puzzles me, but okay. Probably should have held out for the Vow of Champions. That being said, there really isn't anything we can do here. I do not believe we have any outs in our lists. I mean, there's the Reckless Flame Breather, but surely they're going to have something on the board, something to really press the situation to make it so that we can't even get away with that. So they go ahead, use the GP to kill the barricade. Everything else will indeed go face. They put me down to 2 health. Asking the question to me, can I stop them from having lethal next turn? They play the Poison Dagger, so now I need a lot of tricks, and at the moment, we are not kids, so we have no tricks. We go ahead and we end the game on our terms with the Poison Dagger, and game number 3 is going to be necessary. So now, here we are, game number 3, all of the marbles on the line. We are going second when it counts the most. We blew our opportunity going first last game, but we do have the double Wild Hog, which is the best open that you can have. We kept a Jail Beast as well because it's a 3 cost. And when we're celebrating the best opening you can possibly have, our opponent goes out with the same opening. And it's like, wow, I thought our draw was amazing, but they're going first and they have the same one. So they're going to be attacking with Wild Hogs, which is its own little adventure. But those Wild Hogs for our opponent, both of them listen, both of them go face, which is optimal for our opponent. They play a Barricade, which is interesting. It is very interesting from our opponent's perspective here. We're going to play a Jail Beast, and we're hoping that one of those Wild Hogs runs directly into the Jail Beast. That way we can kind of seize the initiative in this game, and the first one does indeed listen to us, does not listen to our opponent. We get the roll. The second one does listen to them, but now they've got 3 mana. Do they want to use the GP to kill my 1/1 token? Do they want to play something else and let my 1/1 token trade in their 2/1? Those were their options, so we're going to go ahead. We're able to make the trade that we want to make and play the Underbridged Assailant. Now, we are doing all right here. We have still fighting for the early board. We are out of pips. They are out of pips, but they did go first, so they're always going to be 1 turn ahead of us in terms of mana. They go ahead. They play Underbridged Assailant. We had Underbridged Assailant in play. Now, the question here is, do we want to play the Volatile Imp or not? We're going to go ahead and play it. It's a little bit controversial, but I figure with 5 mana, they probably can't take the time out to kill it with the God Power. That is a guesstimate on my part, but it also may have been a mistake, because they can indeed buy the Rune of Strength in the Sanctum by using the God Power here, and they're going to go ahead and do that. Now, I would love them to play the Rune of Strength on the Underbridged Assailant, and then us eating both of the Poison Dagger and nuking their early favor advantage, but they do not make that mistake. They go ahead and play their own minion here, and unfortunately, we do not have many options this turn. We can play Poison Dagger, we can play Dockside Prowler. That is about all we can do. And we're looking at the Sanctum here. Nothing is really awe-inspiring. We're thinking about maybe purchasing the Enraged Ally, but why? I don't think that is the optimized play. Probably should wait for Athenian Archer or Ambitious Adventurer. So we think about the decision here. I don't want to play the Poison Dagger because I know that he's about to buff his minion, but why let him buff his minion? If he plays the Ruin of Strength, he trades into our 3/5, our Dockside Prowler finishes it off. It is 2 cards for 2 cards, an early card advantage, and we're holding Reckless Flame Breather. It looks like that this game is indeed going to be a loss. We're just well far behind here and unlikely to come back and win this game. And they go ahead and make trade. We have the option of purchasing just about anything we want from the Sanctum. We can buy the Archer, we can use the GP. We top deck Panacea and Messenger, which actually fits our mana curve perfectly. So the Archer is great because we can use the Archer and the GP to go ahead and finish off the Bedeviled Shadow. And we can go ahead and attack with the Dockside into the Barricade and heal up our minion. They've only got 2 cards in hand, and we've only got 1, so we're hoping they're holding like a Reckless Flame Breather and something else as well. Something bad like Stack the Deck. They play the worst card in the starter deck and give us 3 cards at a time that we needed stuff to do. And we draw Secrets Broker, and the crazy thing with Secrets Broker is we're going to be able to play Secrets Broker and we're going to draw a card because they have more cards in hand than we do, and we get a 5-4 on board. Now we've got the 4-wide board. We've got plenty of cards to do. The cards, even though they cost 1 more mana than they should, Hunt Warden and Barb Portfolio, Secrets Broker was value. All the cards can come down and can be useful. So the situation was looking dead lost a couple of seconds ago, and now after they play Stack the Deck, the game has completely turned. Honestly, they might have been better off just flat out passing the turn than playing Stack the Deck. They play the Poison Dagger, but man, they're eating 5 points of damage, going down to 13 health here. They are already in some trouble. They have to use the GP, which is not going to be the optimized play here. We can push 5 additional points of damage. The Panacean Messenger comes into play. We don't have to worry about board wipes because this is the starter deck tournament. They have nothing until 8, so we go all the way wide here. Ask our opponent the question. We are indeed threatening lethal next turn. And there are not very many easy ways to handle the situation. They play 2 Barbed Portfolios, and we can play the Poisoned Dagger, utilize the God Power, and we will go on and advance to the Final 4 and be playing a Finale Night broadcast for the Starter Deck Tournament of Champions. Something like that. And this will be our second Final 4 appearance in the Coin Flip Festivals.